If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. If you are new, thanks for clicking on this video. So today we're going to go through some of my favorite best underrated horror films, and I hope these are some that either you have seen. If you haven't seen them, then I hope you get to enjoy them, and let me know in the comments below what you think. Now, first on my list, clown. Clowns are a very well-known phobia for a lot of people. So right off the bat, starting off strong. And this particular movie doesn't do a whole lot of CGI stuff, at least not in the beginning, and the whole preview of it piqued my interest immediately. So it is about a realtor whose child has a clown performer at their birthday party basically cancel before showing up. So dad gets called by mom saying, hey, clown canceled, we don't have entertainment for these kids. Dad decides, I can probably throw something together here at this house, so let me see what they've got. And he finds, of course, this really creepy looking ancient stuff in a chest somewhere inside this house, and decides to put it on. Well, of course, biggest mistake of his life, and slowly he realizes that he cannot take the suit off. So that had me hooked immediately because it's a compelling idea. Imagine throwing some random used something on and not realizing that it's got supernatural properties that make it adhere to your skin. Ugh. So anyway, it just keeps spiraling from there, and it turns out it's like this child-eating demon. Yeah, it gets pretty gnarly. So I would say, if you haven't seen this movie, highly recommend checking it out. It is severely underrated in my opinion. I think it got a 5.7. It should have at minimum, I would say, at least a 7. I know that toward the end there is some funky looking CGI stuff, but the fact that majority of this movie does a whole lot without any help from CGI is impressive. And it kind of reminds me of the Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps type vibes. I would definitely say if you're a kid who grew up watching those stories and things like Tales from the Crypt, then definitely check this one out. Next on the list is a movie called Hell House LLC. So if you have seen any of my other movie lists, you know that I rave about this movie, mainly because, again, same thing. They do a whole lot with very little. It is about a group of friends who decide that they're going to go in together and create a haunted house, and they acquire this place, and it turns out it had like satanic rituals or something happening in it, and all kinds of creepy stuff start happening. But the part that got me, and that I actually had to stop the movie and just wait till the next day to watch it during daylight, was there's a particular mannequin that they have in this scene, which I know it's actually a person at times, but there's a costume and it has a like bald clown, and he is just horrendously creepy, and the only thing he's doing is standing at the bottom of a dark staircase, but he shouldn't be there. So I will leave it at that. For me, the idea of that was horrifying. I don't know if you grew up with any stairs in any of the houses you stayed at. I did, and anytime you had to go downstairs and it was dark, that was the stuff of nightmares. So this clown outfit at the bottom of the stairs for me was too much. I was like, nope, not doing it. So I waited till the next day to watch the rest of the movie, but it didn't disappoint. I mean, sure, are there some cheesy parts to it? Of course. However, I think for what it is, it's severely underrated, and I look forward to buying a t-shirt of that movie. The company Terror Threads, that I love to buy t-shirts from because they really do a great job of providing quality shirts that don't shrink, don't discolor. The images are very good quality. I'm actually wearing one right now. And just FYI, I am not in any way sponsored by Terror Threads. They're just a good reputable company to buy shirts from if you are a horror fan and want quality shirts and don't just want something cheap that's going to either discolor or shrink. Then you should definitely check out Terror Threads. They are also good about making a lot of unique designs that are specific to them, and they partner with a lot of not well-known movies. Haunt actually is one in particular that I hadn't seen any other shirts anywhere besides their website. So I highly recommend, if you're a horror fan and you like to buy shirts, rather than buying the cheap ones at, Marshall's or Ross or other places, instead of buying multiple at one of those places, save your coins and buy one quality shirt every now and then at Terror Threads. You will thank yourself later. They do limited runs on some of their shirts, so they definitely did a collection on the movie Hell House LLC, and I was stoked that they did that. They had tank tops and t-shirts, and they often do both for a lot of their merch. So highly recommend checking them out if you haven't. But speaking of Haunt and the shirt that I'm wearing, Haunt is another one of the movies on my list. A movie about these group of friends that go to a haunted house, and it's not really pretend. They basically figure out as they're there that it's real and bad things are happening. And so it just kind of continues to spiral and snowball as the story goes along. So if you're someone like me who goes to haunted houses, this is exponentially scary, because you're like, oh man, if that was me, if that was my situation, what would I do? Haunt got a 6.3, and I feel like it should have at minimum gotten a 7. So it's just a great watch. If you are a horror fan and you do go to haunted houses, then spine-chilling one to watch. This next one is called The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Even though it's a little higher end rated of my list, it's got a 6.8, which I feel like it shouldn't have gotten. And this movie is incredibly creepy but intriguing at the same time. They use certain aspects of the setup to really get under your skin. It's basically just perfectly layered horror is what I would call it, because there's so many things, so many aspects to it that add to the creepiness. For example, the fact that it's taking place in a morgue. So that's number one, already creepy. Number two, it's an autopsy being performed, so that's horrifying. 3, there's very strange elements that are really inexplicable about the condition of the body that raise all sorts of questions and also raise hairs on the back of your neck as this father and son are going through this autopsy together. And then there's this other factor of this creepy little song that keeps randomly playing on the radio in the background, just at random. And it's kind of like, if you've watched Welcome to Derry, it's like the opening song to that one, where standalone, the song still might be a little creepy, but when in that context is just 20 times more creepy. So now I cannot hear that song and not associate it with that entire movie and just the feeling of watching that movie. And if you haven't seen it, you absolutely must see this if you are a horror fan. Even if you're not, the movie itself, it's not a traditional horror movie by any means. You don't know what's going to happen. You won't predict this one. So definitely watch this movie. This next movie on the list is pretty close to The Autopsy of Jane Doe, because it is also set in a morgue and has similar very dark, creepy vibes. And I would say that both Autopsy of Jane Doe and this next one that I'm going to mention are ones that I probably would not watch alone. They're just that scary to me, and that's pretty hard to do because I am a hard one to scare. I can watch a lot of horror movies as background noise while I'm doing stuff alone in the house. These two, I won't do it. They're just too creepy, too dark, and it's just, yeah, I can't do it. But this one is The Possession of Hannah Grace. Man, I really don't understand how it only has a 5.2. I really don't, because this one really creeps me out. The idea of it, several scenarios that they have and that they set up in this movie are just, they give you the super chills and creeps. The setup is that it is an ex-cop who had a situation that was hard to handle at work. So she decides to have a complete change of career, and she decides to become a night watchman at a morgue. Already super creepy setup. Then while she's there, a body comes in, and as soon as it comes in, creepy, awful, weird things start to happen. She thinks that it's her own paranoia and not what's actually happening. And because of that, she, I think, allows it to escalate a lot further than the average person would. And there's just, man, there's so many scenes that just are unforgettably scary that if you haven't seen this movie or given it a chance because you saw the rating, do yourself a favor and watch this movie ASAP, because it is absolutely horrifying in the best possible way, and it deserves, at minimum, I would say an 8, as does The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I don't know how either one of those are not rated higher. Speaking of fears, the next on my list is As Above, So Below. This one only got a 6.2, and that's another one I don't get because it combines several things that are out of my comfort zone, at least. I definitely have slight claustrophobia, and I especially fear the idea of exploring caves. The true story of the guy who got stuck upside down in a cave and then could never be recovered will haunt me until the day I die, because that is just, I can't imagine a worse fate, honestly. But anyway, this movie basically just combines several fears all in one. It just rolls them all together. And it's a group of people who are looking for the Sorcerer's Stone and are just kind of delving through the catacombs in Paris and just kind of keep going deeper and deeper and finding crazier and crazier things. But problem number one begins when they decide to go into an opening that has the same exact wording that is said to be over the gates of hell. Why? But anyway, it's good. There's just nonstop stuff going on. You don't know what's going to happen, but it's anxiety riddled throughout the entire thing, and which is exactly what I expect of a horror movie. So to me, this one absolutely deserves a higher rating than it has. And I think if you haven't seen it and any of the concept interests you, then you definitely should check it out. Next on the list is The Visit. The idea of seeing relatives you haven't seen ever is already, I would say, an anxious situation to be put into, especially as an adolescent. But then to turn that on its head and to say, what if you were going to visit relatives you've never met and then it turned out that they aren't your actual relatives? That is a horrifying concept. And this movie absolutely turns the otherwise ordinary and not scary absolutely terrifying. And it also sprinkles in dark humor throughout. And because of that, and because it does such a good job, I think it is absolutely underrated. At only a 6.3, I think at minimum it should have gotten at least a 7. And I don't know where people decide to ding it. I'm not sure. And if you haven't seen it, then I would definitely check it out. Almost identical in concept and also severely underrated is The Taking of Deborah Logan. And that one only has a 6, an even 6. It's kind of like if The Visit and The Possession of Emily Rose were mashed together, because it shows parallels between Alzheimer's or dementia and someone acting possessed, and how sundowning can be terrifying. And it just really turns all of that on its head, and it's done mockumentary style, and I found it really, really good to watch start to finish. The end sure is a little weird, but for most horror movies, I mean, there's only so much they can do with an ending. But overall, this movie definitely deserved, I would say, at least a 7 or an 8 based on how well they lead up and slow cook that creepiness. That it just really does a good job overall. The acting is great. It really pulls you in to what it would feel like if you were in that scenario, if you were that person's relative and figuring out what is wrong. So I highly recommend seeing it if you have not checked that out. Next on my list is Grave Encounters. Grave Encounters is almost like a mockumentary of the Ghost Encounters show, and it does a brilliant job of poking fun at the whole ghost hunter shows, but then takes it to a almost Twilight Zone-y type scenario. So basically, these people who are doing a ghost hunting show are very obviously trying to manufacture a lot of the encounter part of their show. And they decide to go to this abandoned psych ward building and get locked in for the night. It's only supposed to be the night, and then they in the morning, the caretaker's supposed to come and unchain them and unchain the door and open it up and let them out. And while they're in there, things just start going very weird and wonky. They even have a guy who is supposed to be a medium, and he's not really. He just kind of puts it on extra thick in order for them to have something good to show on, for the ratings. Just bad things start happening in real life. And then little by little, they realize there doesn't seem to be any way out of this building. And what's really creepy and good about the movie is that all the places that they knew were exits basically disappear. So the door where they were chained in becomes a hallway, and they have no explanation on how that happened, and it's really not possible. And they try to make it all the way up to a fire escape, and there's no opening, there's no window, there's nothing. And just the idea or concept of that, I find terrifying. Like the inexplicable, weird, creepy things, kind of like when the Blair Witch Project movie had that going on, where they were going around and around and coming to the same places, just kind of looping in an endless loop. That freaks me out. So to me, that was a really great thing they did in that movie. But basically, you're just going along for the ride and figuring out where it's going to end, if it's going to end, are any of them going to escape. And one thing, and this is just a little side story that I'll tell you guys, is when I was watching this movie at home in my apartment, so I was watching it, and it was, I think, a thunderstorm. And of course, anytime there's storms, I don't know, for me personally, it's extra good setting to watch a scary movie. So I decided to put the movie on. I was watching the movie on Xbox, I believe, and the power went out right as the power goes out in the movie. I kid you not. Even if I tried 100 times to plan it exactly like that, I could not have done it. And the power went out, but it flickered. So it basically went out and back on instantly. So I was instantly ready to be annoyed with that, because at the time, which I'm not sure if they've changed this on Xbox since, but at the time on Xbox and on all my equipment basically to watch movies, anytime the power went out, didn't matter if it was a flicker, the whole system would reboot. Well, what was especially creepy about that moment was that the lights flickered with the movie, right? When it came back up, like instantly, the movie just kept playing. Yeah, like nothing stopped. It was as if I might as well have hit pause, and it just kept playing. I was freaking out because I have never seen that happen. It was bizarre. The fact that it happened that way in the movie, I was done. I turned the movie off. I did not watch anymore until my husband came home. At the time we were dating. But yeah, I did not watch anymore until he came home, and I told him all about it, because I was like, what are the chances of that? But also because I just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy, and he already knew the same thing that I did, which was anytime the power went out, because we'd accidentally hit our power, our power strip button and made everything turn off and on before, and it always shut all the way down and turned back on. So we had no explanation for that. To this day, I don't know why that happened, how it happened, but I know it was extremely creepy, and I'll never forget it. So I just wanted to add that little sprinkle of creepiness on there. So if you watch this movie and you see the part where the lights turn out on them, just think of me and how terrified I was in that moment when that happened. If you haven't seen the movie, definitely check it out. Last but certainly not least on this list is Brightburn, and that one only got a 6.1. I don't know how, because it took everything about the idea of Superman and made it the complete opposite and evil in the most terrifying way, and made you afraid of a child. If I was this kid actor's relatives or parents, I would probably look at him a little sideways. Not saying that he is a bad person or anything, but man, when certain actors can play terrible or evil or bad so convincingly, I'm gonna look at you differently after that. And this movie, I mean, he does a stellar job. It's great because start to finish, you don't really predict again what's gonna happen. It is just a completely different type of horror movie. It is the anti-hero horror movie, or anti-superhero horror movie, and I didn't even know I would like something like that, and I loved it. It's terrible, it's horrible, but in all the best ways. So if you haven't watched that one, highly recommend, especially if you're a Superman fan. Definitely check that one out. But that is it for me today, guys, on this list. If you have any on your list that I missed that you think I should check out that are severely underrated to you, let me know in the comments below. If you are not a subscriber, definitely hit that subscriber button and that notification bell so that way you see my next video. But if not, either way, hope to see you in the next video. Bye, guys.